Ah, gee whiz. I'm such a fucking sucker for tactical games. I hate to admit it, but there's something about being a police officer slash SWAT officer that really rubs me the right way. I mean, rubs me in all the right ways. But there's one thing I still can't understand, and that's... Okay. There's one thing I still can't understand, and
see enemy!
Am I fucking schizophrenic? What am I hearing? What's going on here? Okay. Well, anyway, today's video is about ground... Well. Never thought I'd find myself on the odd side of Steam, but that's just the way of the fucking road, boys. I'm back again, and this time around I wanted to enlist myself in the affairs of realistic police simulators once again. To nobody's surprise, Cops vs. Robbers is a great style of video game genre and one of my personal favorites, considering it can lead to a lot of interesting moments and dynamic immersion depending on what you're playing. The more common titles we've all known and loved for years could be broken down into an encyclopedia of knowledge, but instead I'll just give you some examples. Counter-Strike, Ready or Not, Rainbow Six Siege, the sort of game where it's an intense battle between both sides and you're outnumbered by a long shot and there's a lot of mechanics at play. It wasn't that long ago that I noticed a game in my discovery queue on Steam known as Ground Branch. Out of morbid curiosity, my cousin and I bought and played it together, and we had a pretty fun time. Much like the more realistic side of gaming, such as Tarkov or Insurgency, Ground Branch is another one of my favorites in this category. You might have never heard of it, but Ground Branch is actually a decent clone of those games to an extent. I am highly aware that this game and Tarkov are nowhere near the same game, but similar elements are apparent throughout the experience. It's kind of like when I talked about Sandstorm, another hardcore first-person shooter with amazing mechanics, engaging dynamic combat, yada yada. Ground Branch is a step in the right direction, but it steers into its own originality and dips its head into various areas that resemble a pretty damn good modern title. It's a solo or co-op first-person tactical shooter where you take on multiple enemies in a choice between two different modes, intel retrieval and terrorist hunt. And yes, I know that the game just came out yesterday, I'm gonna talk about defusal later. In both of these modes, players get to choose the map they wish to tackle head-on or with a friend, and launch into the game, customizing their own gear, their characters, their weaponry, all that shit. In total, there are 11 maps in the base game with 7 main missions, 1 training area, and 13 arena-like maps where you could possibly play online. Since I'm known for being a fucking absolute loser, I'm gonna jump the gun and focus entirely on the solo aspect of the game. It's a lot less shit that you and I have to worry about and much less writing on my end, so it's just easier. With intel retrieval, players have to locate 2 possible sources of intelligence by finding a laptop and downloading files, all the while avoiding enemies. Once you've gathered all the intel, you're free to leave and head to the extraction zone. Very easy to understand and even better to experience it firsthand. The game, when I bought it, was $30, which isn't all that bad considering some of the mechanics in it. I mean, I'm shocked to say this, but at one point, I shot an enemy in the throat just to witness him wriggle around and choke on his own blood. That's pretty damn brutal for an indie game, let alone one that's in early access.
Over here!
Oh! You got fucked up. In all my time playing this game, I have never ever known you could do that. I know I told you guys never to buy early access games in the past, and that's because it just so happens that a lot of devs do that in order to release a broken, unfinished game for a ridiculous price. But Ground Branch retail price is only $30. Hell, right now, or at least when I checked, it was on sale for $29.99, which is totally worth it in my opinion. Given the game's breathtaking graphics at times and pretty damn impressive AI maneuverability and tactics, I can't deny that this is truly my definitive tactical shooter game. It's not as competitive as, say, Insurgency, where you're constantly competing for objectives and whatnot, but it still contains a level of complexity, skill, reaction, and timing and accuracy. You can't just jump into a map and run in all guns fucking blazing like Rambo. Instead, you're encouraged to take your time, find your way along the various branching paths on the maps, and succeed through joyous murder by executing the enemy once they see you. But also, how fucking funny is it that every time an enemy sees you in this game, they scream?
Over here! He's one of them!
Great giveaway, moron. You probably could have killed me if you weren't so stupid. You can alter the difficulty of the game before each match loads. You can customize all of your gear down to the placement of certain equipment like ammo or grenades on your vest. There's a neat free look mechanic that comes in handy when trying to watch your back and be all stealth-like. If you're at a last resort and run out of ammunition, you can pick up enemy weapons and use them as long as you keep picking up magazines from the other weapons that can support it. You can sprint in this game and jump, which is something that drove me crazy in my review for Ready or Not. It just seems like a necessity for a game like this. You can even sprint while crouching. It's as tactical and cool as it gets, at least in my opinion. Terrorist Hunt, the other mode that I wanted to talk about, is, terrorist hunt. You'll have to hunt down every enemy in the map one by one, killing them off as soon as possible. You'll be put to the ultimate test when you fire your gun and see 10 other men storming their way into your room. And let me tell you, don't ever get cocky. I learned my lesson the hard way, and it still pains me to say I haven't fully recovered from this. I want to sweep all these buildings. I don't know how many guys I have left. I don't know how many guys I've killed.
Overheat!
I couldn't see him. That's disappointing. In all honesty though, Ground Branch gets a lot of hatred from fans who somehow don't believe it's a legitimate game. The developers had recently uploaded a teaser trailer for the official 1.0 update, but many of the comments seemed negative, quoting the devs as hustlers and irrelevant game designers. I guess anything is possible, but I don't know. The game is pretty fun as it stands now. It might not necessarily be worth $30 full price, but that's why you get it on sale or something. The product that we have isn't broken or misdirected. I just genuinely think it needed time to cook in the oven a bit longer. And don't worry, I'm gonna cover the final release by the end of this video. This is seriously such a fun game, and I find myself playing it a lot when I'm in the mood for a hearty laugh or genuine tactical gameplay. It feels frabjous to talk about it and finally give it an official review. Unfortunately though, it's time for me to get into the shit show. Ground Branch isn't perfect by any means, and it does need some polish in a few areas, but I'm obviously prepared to talk about the weaker elements. Keep in mind, most of these are a bit out there, but that's because this is one of my favorite shooters. It always grabs my attention, and experimenting with the gameplay tweaks, maps, and enemy routes always proves to be a good time. Even though you can jump in this game, you can't vault over waist-high things. I also think there might be something wrong with the grenade throw distance. Every time I tried to toss one at an enemy, I would basically gently drop it in front of myself. I also don't like the fact that every enemy in the game is currently the same reused asset. It just looks like a generic enemy from Counter-Strike. There aren't many weapons to choose from, and a lot of them don't necessarily seem quote-unquote useful given certain maps. 747, the terminal map, I'm convinced requires a sniper rifle no matter what, otherwise you'll just drop fucking dead. That's not always the case, but you should definitely try to remember enemy spawns as best you can to avoid that issue. I know earlier I said the AI is very good at determining your position in terms of how well the lighting is in each room, but they're also extremely accurate. On any difficulty from trained bots to above, the enemies will give you no mercy. They might miss 1 or 2 shots on you, but if you blink and miss your shot, you die. The enemies in Ground Branch can drop you quicker than I drop my intestines into the toilet every fucking morning. The motion blur effect in this game is hideous too. I'm quite noctivagant, so my eyes are more adjusted to playing on a monitor at night, but with the ridiculous default blur settings applied, it feels like I'm suffering from astigmatism. Thankfully, I believe you can turn this off in the menu. The customization options are definitely limited with only a few select choices of clothing and cosmetics, and the overall interface is a little clunky. When customizing your guns, it's sometimes a small wrestling match with your mouse sensitivity to align your scopes and whatnot to the fucking spot that it needs to go. Not to mention another problem I've been having is saving a weapon blueprint, but then the weapon blueprint doesn't save. It's probably just a small bug or something. For me personally, it feels like a chore to have to click and drag every single attachment, but it's not the end of the world. The beautiful graphics can work wonders for your eyes, but not when trying to fight an enemy or navigate a map and the fucking sun itself is blinding you. Come on, I get it. You have ray tracing and 3060 Ti support. Do you really need to fucking blind me unfairly when I get pushed by an enemy? I guess that's more so my bad, but the volumetric light does seem a bit much. Also, where the hell is the blood and gore? I don't know why these modern day shooters are so scared of being graphic. I can shoot someone in the neck and watch them wriggle around desperately. What about the blood pools and gore and gib effects? Yeah, sure, there's some blood when you shoot somebody, but it's small. Imagine tossing a nade into a building and watching someone's arm fly out the fucking window, along with debris, glass. Shit like that would be awesome. Again, Not really a complaint as much as it is a nitpick, but come on devs, make it happen. That's really all I can say negatively about the game, but none of the things I've complained about do anything seriously harmful to Ground Branch's gameplay. The experience you'll have when loading this up with a few friends is nothing like others of this type. It has the perfect balance of difficulty and fun, introducing some bonuses like customization and, hopefully soon, mod support. Sadly, I chose a really shitty time to make this video. In the middle of writing this script, I discovered that the full release of the game came out yesterday. Holy shit, that was fast. Well, alright, so what's new? Customization has been tweaked immensely, adding 2 brand new guns to the roster, the ability to switch your gender, and other clothing options, and now you can go in fucking prone. I'm not kidding. Since the game came out, players have been asking for a way to go in prone and tactically take out enemies from a distance. Now you can. If you hold shift, you'll even crawl faster. Ready or Not doesn't have shit on this. The 2 guns they've added include the Galil and FAL, which are powerful as fuck, and I definitely enjoy them more than the other base guns. Modding support is still unavailable for the game at this time, but that's fine. I'm not worried about that. The enemies look different than before, which is kind of cool, but they still all look the same. The overall movement and animation clunkiness is gone, giving me smoother and more enjoyable control. Some of the maps have been tweaked to feature bigger and more detailed areas, like the city, which added an interior for a bank, amongst other places. One of the other biggest updates they brought was a brand spankin' new mode, Defuse. This is what I was talking about earlier. Simply enough, in Defuse, players have to spend a short amount of time searching for 2 active bombs. Defusing them will win the game, but failing to do so, or running out of time, will end with you crying like a fucking baby. This mode is much more intense than the previous 2, and I can imagine how hard it would be against other real players. Or how fun if you had some guys on your team and decided to cooperate. Although they've already added so much to the finished game, I'm more than excited to see where the devs go from here. Future updates promise exciting new features, maps, weapons, and way more. Ground Branch is more than a decent clone of the tactical action genre of games, and with the recent release of the full game, I'm beyond ecstatic to find out what's in store for us. As a personal thank you to the devs from me, Ground Branch is certified badass, and it is still one of my favorite tactical shooters ever made. Thanks again for watching, everyone. If you're even remotely curious to check out some of the things I mentioned here, you should consider supporting the devs and buying the game, especially now that it's on sale. Anyways, thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.
He's one of them!